Brakatia Howell, Brakatia Washai, Brakatia Howell, Brakatia Washai, Brakatia Howell, Brakatia Howell, Bashim Yahushai, Bahashim Chakodash. That belongs to the apostles. So I can flip this. That belongs to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone True Well. Salutations to the hopeful elect out there. You Akim to Sadakim that do this thing in the utmost truth and sincerity. I'm the priest Shaman. This week I'm going to be discussing, dealing with these so-called holidays, man. You know what I'm saying? Dealing with these so-called holidays. Today is so-called Thanksgiving, and this lesson I kind of do it around the same time around Thanksgiving, Christmas, to really teach the younger brothers how to move with discretion if you don't already know. You know what I'm saying? And that is the fact that this truth, sometimes it's an assault rifle, but as you mature, you realize more of the time you got to use it like a sniper rifle. In other words, you're going to have people come up to you saying happy holidays and saying all these things and shit like that. The best course of action, again, just speaking from experience, is just to say happy holidays right back. You know what I'm saying? And that's just going to save you a lot of time, a lot of bullshit, all right, than to really go into what Thanksgiving is all about and saying don't wish me that shit and all that type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's just time and a place. The scripture says in the book of Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter. And you might have so-called family members that are, prepping together this Thanksgiving meal and all this type of food and shit, and you might be like, man, fuck that. I'm not gonna eat that shit. Well, guess what? The Most High doesn't give a shit if you eat it or not. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna get that scripture, because if you believe in Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, the hell will they believe? You're just there for the food and you out. You don't necessarily have to go out your way. I'm not saying go out your way. I mean, if you on this particular so-called holiday just don't want to deal with people, that's your business. But I'm just saying it's better to not move like a lion with them. You know what I'm saying? This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 1, verse 1. It says, the proverb of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, to know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice, and judgment, and equity, to give subtlety to the simple. Giving subtlety to the simple. Under Tillis web. Under the web. You got to move like we always talk about it. Clark Kent mode and Superman mode. Superman mode is when I'm out in the highways and byways and I'm doing a lesson. I'm not going to go out, salute brothers, hey, happy holidays. I ain't going to do that shit. We're not about that. But if you at the job, if you got a family get together, they wish you happy holidays, just say it back. They wish you Merry Christmas, hey, Merry Christmas, just keep it pushing. Because like I said, and this is not coming from a place of like, oh, well, I didn't do the opposite. I did the opposite. I did the opposite, man. And I got in this thing, Jeremiah was it Jeremiah 1 and 10 of the 10th chapter, going into the tree and you going back and forth with them, and you find out it's two things gonna come out of that. Either you're gonna waste time, most likely that's what happens, or they're just gonna hate you. You know what I'm saying? They're going to be like, don't bring this nigga back around. You know what I'm saying? That's what's going to happen. You're going to find yourself burning a lot of unnecessary bridges, when the best course of action really is to just use the wisdom of the scriptures. You know what I'm saying? Because the Most High knows your heart. This is the book of, reading the verse 4 says, it says, to give subtlety to the simple, to the young man, knowledge and discretion. Discretion is what we must have. You know what I'm saying? Being very temperate, balancing your spirit, know when to turn this truth into an assault rifle and use it as a sniper rifle, right? When I say that, I mean, you're not just, well, when you do come in the truth, you're kind of just shooting indiscriminately, no scope on, you just no scoping everything, shooting at every, because, it's new to you. But as you mature, you realize, oh, damn, I wasted all my bullets. What was that for? Because most of these people, they're not going to receive it, man, all right? Even if somebody call themselves Israelites, well, I know I'm an Israelite, that don't mean you jump right into talking this thing about them, man. That shit happened to me all the time. They look at my chain, oh, you Jewish? So-called Edomites will come up to me, you Jewish? Tell them, oh, man, I'm not Jewish, man. My jewelers are Jews, and, I like the chain. Oh, you know that there was black Jews, right? I said, a word? You know what I'm saying? It was like, even though I'm 2 Jakes at the job, I'm training them. They came out talking about, I don't know how it led to it. They was talking about Israelites and all that. And one of them even said, man, you know, I'm surprised you guys knew about this, man. I'm surprised that you even mentioned. I was scared I was going to get fired. Whole time, I'm just like, yeah, man, hey, that's deep. But I'm not going super into, I teach and all that. You know what I'm saying? Because you got to know when to shoot these bullets, man. You know? Let's go to the next scripture. Proverbs chapter 15. I'll start at 1. It says, a soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger, right? So this truth is grievous to these people. You know what I'm saying? It's grievous to them. To us, it's like sweet wine, and we love this thing. You know, we love hearing the truth, but you know, you going back and forth at the family dinner telling them the cranberry represents blood, you know what I'm saying? And turkey represents the flesh of the Native Americans. You doing all that around the family dinner. Yo, I just don't do that. You know what I'm saying? Just don't, you know? It's truly 100% not worth it. Again, that's for you newer brothers that probably, some of you brothers probably already did that and learned that shit it's not it, man. You know what I'm saying? This is going to stir up anger. It says the tongue of the wise uses knowledge, right? The tongue of the wise uses knowledge. All right. But the mouth of fools pour out foolishness. And one thing that is synonymous with a fool is they just can't control their tongue. They just speak the first thing that comes to their mind, and you don't want to do that. You know what I'm saying? You know, there's a saying in the world that says, a wise man once said nothing. You know, nobody knows if you're a fool or if you're wise until you speak. So the words that should be coming out your mouth, you should be very calculative in the things that you say. You should really think about it. Because guess what? You know, when we say foolish things, we tend to be in a state of emotions. We say to be extremely angry, and we say things not thinking. We just say things in our anger and our frustration. And it's not till we cool off and we reflect, we're like, damn, why did I say that? Or I could have gone about that differently. So you kind of always, as much as possible, want to control your emotions before you say your words. You know, or else you're going to be just like, damn, this guy's a fucking fool. He can't hold, you know, like a scripture says, the fool's like a broken glass, can't hold the wisdom, and just keep leaking out, something to that effect. You know what I'm saying? So I know on a day like this, especially when you're fervent in the spirit, you just, you know, very, you locked in, but you just got to learn how to channel that. The best thing to do is just do a lesson. You know, do a lesson going into the real meaning of Thanksgiving. So the people that need to hear it will hear it. You get what I'm saying? To hell with the 2/3 if they don't get it or hear this thing, man. You know, and Isaiah 6:9, you tells us that the Most High, you know, blinded them. So you're not really going back and forth with a person that's not getting it. You're going back and forth with an angel, and you ain't gonna win that battle. The angel that has sealed off their ears and blinded them. Proverbs 25:15 says, by long forbearing is a prince persuaded, and a soft tongue breaketh the bones. And it's crazy because I forgot to get the scripture, but it's, you know, the Lord said, agree with thy adversary quickly. That is that scripture right there, agreeing with your adversary quickly, that is a golden scripture, man. Barakatah Yahweh Shem Yahshua for that scripture, because when you start to apply that, you start to realize, oh my goodness, man, that scripture right there, man, agreeing with your adversary quickly, because you can see how quickly it puts out certain quarrels and strifes. You know, you could even like disagree with your adversary a little bit and then be like, yeah, but that's true. This is where I'm coming from with it, though. You know what I'm saying? How to just to calm the adversary down and then make your point. You see? So I know it might grieve certain brothers to do it. At this point, I don't give a shit. I mean, if somebody, I remember, check this out, man. This how crazy. It's kind of funny. When I came in the truth, you couldn't even tell me happy birthday. I'll be telling you happy birthday, go back to Greek custom, and the cake represents the moon which it does. The cake represents the moon, and the candles are supposed to represent the light of the moon because it's a moon day, and you're not supposed to celebrate your birthday. And I remember a brother, this when we had Facebook, he's, you know, people was telling him happy birthday, he was just saying thank you and shit like that. And I'm like, why he doing that? I didn't say like that, but I'm like, why are you doing that? But I was just coming in. Now I get it. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not going to go back and forth on the goddamn internet telling them the true meaning of that. It's easier to say, hey, thanks. You know? Galatians 4:6 says, Am I therefore become your enemy because I tell you the truth? When you tell these people the truth, like I said, more than likely, you're either going to burn bridges, waste time, or get yourself a new enemy. That's really just what it surmises to, right? So instead of doing that, right? So instead of being buddy-buddy with them, you don't got to be buddy-buddy with them. You know what I'm saying? This is what the scripture says in the book of Ecclesiastes, the book of Sirach, the 6th chapter. It says, instead of a friend, become not an enemy. Now, we just read in Galatians, am I therefore become your enemy because I tell you the truth? And then the scripture right here said, instead of a friend, become not an enemy. What's it telling you? Instead of being buddy-buddy, just deal with them. Don't tell them the truth, because when you tell them the truth, more than likely they're going to become an enemy, man. Unless somebody really know you in this thing for X amount of years, you know, you could, you know, kind of, but for the most part, it's just, that's how you navigate with these people in the world, especially on these fucking holidays, man. You know, you're going to have to go into work. You might work. Your boss greets you, hey, man, happy Thanksgiving. You're not going to roll your eyes or get the fuck away. You don't do that. You know what I'm saying? Hey, happy Thanksgiving right back to you. It says, for thereby thou shalt inherit an ill name. See that? Shame and reproach. Even so shall a sinner that hath a double tongue. So we in this truth, and we're covered by the grace of Yahweh Shem Yahshua, who knows our consciousness. And the Most High knows that we have to operate in the world. You know what I'm saying? You got to go to the job. You got to deal with your family. And they're going to be in the so-called holiday spirit. But you're not at camp. You don't got your garment on. Now you got to be Clark Kent. Now you got to control your spirit. You know what I'm saying? Let me go back. Yeah, so Apostle Paul says, am I therefore become your enemy because I tell you the truth? And then that is true, man. You know, that is true. And we come in sometimes very over righteous, you know what I'm saying? And learn a lot of lessons throughout the years doing that. So that's how come we put together these. I've been putting together these lessons, the same type of lesson every year, man. You know, because I know there's always new brothers coming in and might be thinking the same thing I was thinking many years ago. So just, you know, some wisdom from the scriptures. Proverbs 16:32 says, he that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that ruleth his spirit than he that taketh a city. That's heavy, because, you know, taking a city is not an easy thing, but taking a city is conquering the next man. Ruling your spirit is conquering yourself, which is difficult. You know, there's a constant battle between yourself and the spirit, your flesh and the spirit. And as Michael Jackson said, hey, I'm starting with the man in the mirror. You know, so starting with yourself, controlling yourself, examining yourself, is very, you know, it starts with you and ruling your own spirit. It again, easier said than done. You know, I could do this lesson right now and still, I don't know, a week from now, whatever from now, still get angry and frustrated and say shit I'm going to regret, because it's in the flesh, you know? Even though I know the scriptures, I know what I'm supposed to do, sometimes we get emotional, you know what I'm saying? So it's not an easy thing to do, you see? But you get better at it. I'm not going to lie, you get better at it. Proverbs 25:28 says, he that has no rule over his own spirit is like a city that is broken down without walls. That means you don't got no defense, man. You know, a city without walls has no protection, no defense. So ruling your spirit is kind of defending you. You know, you can have a guy, trust me, in my line of work, man, I done had guys outbursts and all this type of shit and saying all these type of things, and you just gotta just be cool and chill and be like, you know, he's getting emotional right now, and just, you know, try to put out fire with water, not with gasoline. Because he gets emotional, you get emotional and shit, just now you have an explosion on your hand. You know what I'm saying? So that's it. That's your defense, man. Controlling your spirit, having the wisdom and knowledge of these scriptures. And I want to talk about, since we're in so-called Thanksgiving, eating the food on Thanksgiving. You're not going off, man. You know what I'm saying? You're not going off if you eat food on Thanksgiving. You know, some camps might still teach that, but we're gonna go into scripture on it, man. 1 Corinthians chapter 8:1 says, Now as touching things offered unto idols, we know that we all have knowledge. We all have knowledge. Knowledge puffeth up, but charity edifieth. Yeah, knowledge can puff you up, man. Can get pride. You know, there's a lot of things that come with knowledge, right? Scripture says grief also come with knowledge. So, gotta stay humble, you know, and thank the Most High for any increase in knowledge you receive. It says, and if any man think that he knoweth anything, he knoweth nothing, yet as he ought to know. But if any man love the Most High, the same is known of him. As concerning, therefore, the eating of those things that are offered in sacrifice unto idols, we know that an idol is nothing. Yeah, we know that an idol is nothing. Okay? We know that Santa Claus ain't no goddamn God. You know, we know that, you know, the turkeys and all that type of shit they got with the pilgrim hat on it. We know that's all bullshit. We just there for the food. It says it's nothing in the world, and that there is none other power but one. Right? We know that there's only Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua. That's it. It says, for though there be that are called gods, whether in heaven or in earth, as there be gods many and lords many, but to us there is but one, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, of whom are all things, and we in him, and one Lord, Yahushua, Hamashiach, by whom are all things, and we by him. Howbeit, there is not in every man that knowledge, right? Not every man believe in Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua. For some with conscience of the idol unto this hour eat it at a thing offered onto an idol. So it's what you like exactly. So the conscience of the man, okay? In our conscience, we know, look, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua is only him. You know, this food came from him. This food that's going in is going into his temple. But you have men that are, you know, they'll eat these food and get these festivities onto other deities, onto other spirits. That's different. It says, onto an idol, and their consciousness being weak is defiled, right? So that's how you defile yourself. Remember, you know, that's how you're defiling your mind, if you're eating this thing and truly believing on a particular idol. You know, they might pray and say Jesus and shit. You know, you don't say that part. But that's what they might be praying on to, you know, but you're really praying on to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua for whatever you eat to go to the health and strength of your temple. And that's all that matters. The Lord knows what you're thinking. You know, it says, 8, but meat commendeth us not to the Most High. Right. It says, for neither if we eat are we better, neither if we neither if we eat not are we the worse. Right. So the Most High is not really concerned about that. You know what I'm saying? If you know about Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, that's who you pray to. He's not concerned about if you're eating a fucking a cranberry on Thanksgiving. You know, as long as you're not thinking and worshiping the whole blood thing and going into what they was really behind it when they did that shit, the Most High does not give a shit, man. You know what I'm saying? It's just as long as you're not eating defiled foods, you know, foods that are contrary to the law, statutes, and commandment found in Leviticus, the 11th chapter. You know what I'm saying? So, if you don't know, now you know. So I'm giving all praises to Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushua, Ba'Hashem Ruach HaKodesh. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone True Well. Salutations to the hopeful elect out there. You Akim to Zadakim that do this thing in the utmost truth and sincerity. Shalom.